This video is sponsored by PayPal Honey. Hello YouTube! There's three main problems with YouTube commentary channels. 1. The creators. 2. The audience. 3. YouTube. In other words, it all sucks. Subscribe and like my channel. Yeah, mate. It's been a long week. Recently, Pinely made a video about the unethical YouTube video essay commentary channels. These channels are often criticized for outright lying, slandering, plagiarizing, and scamming, and the main focus of the video was Sunny V2, a creator whose videos often propagate right-wing talking points under the guise of pop culture and YouTube critique. But the video also zooms out to examine bad video essays as a wider phenomenon with many facets. Here's the thing, folks. This work is not easy. The very connotation of these projects being YouTube videos is enough for people to kind of dismiss how much work and thought goes into them. In reality, writing and producing a 20-minute video is hard enough. Doing so while doing a lot of research and taking time to formulate well thought out opinions and cool aesthetic ideas makes it really difficult. And then doing so on a consistent basis so that you can get consistent livable income from it is downright magical. I am an aspiring magician. It takes a lot of motivation to attempt to do the impossible this way. I don't want this video to seem like an outright attack on any creators. I did a little Australian dunking at the beginning. I love Australians, okay? I love Australians and I have no problem with Australian YouTubers. I mean, I have critiques of certain ones, but you know, some of you are cool. Most of you are cool, probably. I like Boyd. He does Age of Mythology videos. I like him. Instead, in this video, I want to ask the question, what are we actually doing here? Okay, what am I doing? I'm going to try to answer that question as well as I can. Along the way, I'll be trying to answer a bunch of other pertinent questions. For instance, why bad video essays tend to do well? What makes a good video essay a good video essay? And how do we as audiences and as creators figure out the dance? The terrible dance of trying to get attention and money while also not trying to sell your soul. Speaking of which, here's an ad break.
Alright, so here we are in front of the elephants. Cool thing about these guys is that they have really long fronts, and that's cool.
YouTube was formed in February of 2005 by three entrepreneurs who gained wealth from the rise of the web and finance capital. According to one of its founders, Jawed Karim, YouTube was inspired by two events in 2004. One was the Super Bowl halftime show in which Janet Jackson's chest was exposed against her will in front of the world. The other was the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami. YouTube was formed as a place where internet users could easily access footage of women, especially celebrity women's sexualized humiliation, as well as traumatic news stories. And I think it's safe to say that that is still what this website is. Of course, a lot has changed, and there's a lot of other things that this website does. It's now a place where tons of creators all over the world can gain income, sometimes very lucrative income, from making all types of videos as long as there's a palpable audience for it. Many of these creators have gotten tons of acclaim and have arguably had really important impact on internet culture, or larger culture outside of the internet, where the grass is. Dan Olson's video essay Line Goes Up, The Problem with NFTs, is one of the best and most important documentarian works of the century. YouTube becomes a powerful platform for these creators to blossom and to make a career, in great part because of its acquisition by Google. See, Google recognized YouTube's capacity for amassing a ton of attention and recognized that as the app that had come up with AdSense, which is monetizing attention on the internet, that would be a very lucrative place for them to invest. Google's algorithms, AdSense, and analytical tools create the foundation for the YouTuber economy, which essayists like FD Signifier often comment on, giving out information to fellow YouTubers and curious audiences via live stream. This dynamic is a great example, maybe the example, of the attention economy. The attention economy is a term that has been defined many times for many years, and mainly it gets defined in a kind of basic liberal, neoliberal way of fetishizing the idea of supply and demand. You see, in basic economics, you get taught the idea of supply and demand as the backbone of economics, where there is a demand for a product, there is a supply that will continuously be lucrative for it. You supply for the demand, and then demand, supply, supply, demand. But the thing is, economies don't really work that way. For instance, free exchange isn't free. People don't demand things just because they think that they're good out of their free will. They can often be made to demand things, etc., etc. Yay. So we have to pay closer attention to what the attention economy is and build new definitions for it in order to figure out what's happening to us and what we're doing here. More on this after the break. In the book, The Attention Economy, Labor, Time and Power, and Cognitive Capitalism, Claudio Celis Bueno examines the attention economy in a critical, material way. In a world in which information and knowledge becomes central to the valorization process of capital, human attention becomes a scarce and hence increasingly valuable commodity. But hold on, what's a commodity? Well, to Marx, of course, a commodity is in the first place an object outside us, a thing that by its properties satisfies human wants of some sort or another. That's from Capital, Volume 1. It's like the first line. So think about commodities like cotton, right? Cotton is a commodity. Clothes made from cotton are also commodities. They're things that people want, need, and then buy. The creator is a kind of unskilled laborer, not unskilled in the sense that they don't have skills, but unskilled in the sense that they're not designed to have skills by the employment structure and the economic structure.
There aren't any physical requirements for you to be able to call yourself a video essayist. You don't need a college degree. You don't need to have like a job in the field.
And so the term unskilled laborer is more a reference to how they're regarded systematically than like an evaluation of what they actually are. No, actually, I'm unskilled. I have no skills. But the creator is an unskilled laborer by trade whose role is to amass as much of this attention commodity as possible. That's the economic role. Anyway, the audience is the consumer that gives attention where they see fit according to whatever influences them to give attention to things. And this creates a question. If a commodity is something that is outside us, then how can attention be a commodity if it comes from us? Well, that has to lead us to a particular theoretical idea, which is that attention is actually produced by us. It is not something that we have in the same way we have blood. It's something that we give in a process. And when you think about what that is, and especially how much effort and choice it takes to give attention to something and what we expect from giving attention to something, it sort of starts to sound a little bit like work. We produce attention towards something through our own effort. Bueno writes that a critique of the attention economy must shift from an understanding of attention as a scarce commodity to one where attention appears as a form of labor through which surplus value is generated and extorted. In other words, you, the viewer, are doing work. Alarm. You, the viewer, are doing work for YouTube. YouTube is a capitalist that gains surplus value from a ubiquitous, nebulous reserve of creators and audiences. The creators mediate the audience's production of attention and thus production of value. And so what this means is that we are essentially like employees who are not signing up to be employees. Our natural human process of, for instance, wanting to watch a video or a movie is monetized. It is extracted from us by capitalists in order for them to build surplus value. They sell the effect that they have so much watch time to advertisers, that's the word. The more watch time you have, the more you can tell advertisers to give you money for having that amount of watch time because they want that attention. That attention allows them to build all types of value for themselves through advertisements. And so that's how you monetize it. And so that gives you a sense of, obviously, why YouTube channels that aren't necessarily the most substantive, but are constantly trying to grab attention, are the ones that are the most popular and the most rewarded. And that goes for the video essay space. This is what Pinely was talking about. A creator like Sunny V2, or, you can say a creator like iilluminaughtii, who's had a bunch of controversy recently and who has sometimes plagiarized in her videos, arguably, debatably. I'm not making certified accusations of such a thing. But creators that, are much worse than even those two creators are getting a lot of attention because they're seeing the matrix. They're seeing the pattern and they're fulfilling their role. These creators that maybe don't have the best videos but have the most attention grabbing videos are highly efficient at mediating the labor value of audiences. And so YouTube algorithmically rewards them. Bueno writes, in the case of Google, there is no distinction between the content consumed by the user, e.g. the free search engine, and the labor process he or she performs, e.g. the consumption of advertising content. These separate spheres become integrated under one single process through which the service provided, each single Google search, appears at the same time as the mechanism that produces the highly segmented blocks of attention, the advertising agency that finds the right advertiser, AdSense and AdWords, and the rating agency that evaluates its efficiency, Google Analytics. So that leads to the question, why are we doing this? Why am I making videos? And is this a good idea? Am I a scammer? More on this after the ad break. It's been a long week. Folks, it's summertime. I got my summer shirts out, and that means I'm going to be doing summer shopping. And what better shopping tool to use than Honey, the #1 shopping tool in America. Honey's like this little bestie, this button that you have at the top of your browser that can help you save deals across a ton of different websites, including when you're shopping for clothes, for shoes, for food delivery services. And what it does is search for promo codes so that you don't have to, which can allow you to save money on a ton of different things. And if there's one thing that I love, it's saving money. Okay, I love spending money a little bit more than saving money, but when you can do both, what more do you want? This includes tons of websites that you're already using and probably don't even realize that you can get promo codes for. And it's absolutely free. You don't have to spend any money on it. And you can help support the channel. So feel free to join Honey through me at joinhoney.com/Elliot. That's joinhoney.com/ELLIOT. It's my name. Yeah. Thanks to Honey for sponsoring this video, and have a spectacular time watching the rest of it. I can't tell you how many times I've either mentally or actually had conversations with myself or other creators about what it is we're doing. Are we making art for the sake of making art? Is this our art? Is this our media? Is this our journalism? Frankly, you talk to 5 different YouTubers about what they do, and they'll give you 5 different answers. We're all kind of making our own rationalizations, but ultimately we all do come back to the reality that we are trying to get attention and monetize that attention, unless one of us isn't monetizing, in which case, God bless you. I hope you have other jobs that sustain you well enough. But for those of us who want to make this a job, like myself, this becomes a point of dilemma, a point of insecurity, because on one hand, we're trying to make the best video according to a specific artistic choice, a specific goal that we have. We're trying to benefit our audiences. But on the other hand, we also recognize that this is a job, and jobs have to be monetized, and there's no fairness in judging people for trying to monetize their art, their work, their media. How the hell else are artists gonna eat? You can talk about how it's wrong, and obviously we all have to take these steps to balance things, but it's also not really a question whether or not we should just ban creators from monetizing their own things, or just, cancel them, as people would say in today's parlance. So that brings me to what we do and what I think of when I do this. I am constantly struggling with those things, and it's a healthy struggle, I hope, because it is something that informs me on both sides of my interests. On one hand, I recognize that I have to make money. On the other hand, I recognize that you are watching and you need something to benefit you. I know that you're working, right? You're offering value to me that I'm monetizing, and sheesh, if you think I'm monetizing it, these guys over here on the YouTube app, they're doing that 12 times more, and they're handing me a percentage of that. But you're not. You're not getting any of that. You're not getting any of that percentage from that labor. Every person has to decide that balance for themselves. And this is kind of the decision that we're seeing ourselves making in every facet of life right now. Celis Bueno writes that the attention economy blurs the conceptual distinction between labor time and leisure time, and between productive and unproductive labor, and turns all human activity into a potential source of surplus value. So, what do we do? This is the question I get from commenters all the time, from my audience all the time. Because sometimes we talk about changing the world for the better on this channel. And then people are always left with questions, asking for programs, asking for specific answers. And the specificity is something that makes it so that an answer cannot be given. You have to decide what your answer is in your specific world. And this is something that Celis Bueno deals with in the book as well, when he talks about how certain Marxist attempts at theorizing the attention economy have fallen back into that process of universalizing and trying to be pre or anti-historical almost, post-historical almost, which is something that we can't do. You decide what you do in your life. If you work in a gas station and you feel like you can unionize the laborers at the gas station, that's your choice. If you are 15 years old and you're in high school, then you can figure out what you want to do in high school to help the kids around you and figure out what job you want to do to help the world. You have to decide that in your own specific terms. And it's ironic because this specificity is also what makes the art we do worth it to me. Have you noticed that the best video essays on this app are extremely specific? I talked about this with Colormind at one point. There's this kind of thing that happens where you see these videos pop up that get tons of views that are like these 45-minute, 50-minute exposés on a specific subject that you'd never even thought of before. One of the best videos that I'd ever seen on here was about Skrillex. It was about how dubstep had changed over the years from its sort of grassroots scene. And I had never cared about dubstep ever in my life, but this video was awesome. And this is the process I think a lot of you guys undergo as well, right? You log onto this app and you see these recommendations and sometimes something jumps out at you. It's like, I had no idea that I was going to be interested in watching a 1-hour video about Mike's takes and his takes on a particular TV show or certain particular historical events. But you sit there and you do it, and the specificity is part of what makes it amazing. And through accuracy and through good historicization, we get these larger general points in a really natural and really insightful way. But the videos that tend to suck tend to be ones where you're left wondering, hey, can this person be more specific? Am I the only one who feels that way? Like, there's videos that I watch that are commentary videos that have also a lot of success. And it's not like I have an issue with the creators. I often find that they're very talented and smart and seem like cool people, but I feel something's missing because they're delving into a subject, but then they make certain points that are very general and they kind of assume that you're just going to take those points at face value. Like, look, isn't this thing bad? This thing is bad, right? Bad thing. Okay, moving on. The sections where they're getting the details about something seem to be kind of rushed. They're almost like 5-10 minute sections of historicization of a subject where they're often taking stuff from like the first couple of Google searches. And look, I've been there, guilty as charged. But that also leaves a lot to be desired because you never really get an in-depth historical view at something. And not only that, but you also can be subject then to making a lot of assumptions that aren't true. And so this ironically makes the bulk of the video, when people are trying to give their opinions on things, it makes those parts of the video flat and it makes them feel less potent because you're sitting there like, I'm glad that you have this take. It seems reasonable, but you haven't demonstrated to me that you have so much more knowledge about this than I do so as to prove the validity of your take. But a lot of creators kind of make videos like this. And again, I don't want to sound super pretentious because that's kind of what this video is, okay? Long story short, this is kind of meta because this is one of my least planned videos ever. But there's a kind of epidemic. Not really. There's a kind of problem where so many of these creators in these video essay spaces will have a specific subject and will have the thumbnail that catches your eye, and you'll view it and consume it as if it is this in-depth take and look into a subject matter. But if you take the time to listen actively to what they're saying, you realize this is a few Wikipedia articles and a hot take. It's generalities. It lacks the specificity. This is something that we see in popular art overall. Shows like The Wire and Severance, two of my favorite shows of all time, have in-depth, detailed looks at particular worlds. Great world building, great sort of analysis from a very kind of lefty perspective about how material situations evolve. But they're also really compelling because they have great storytelling. They give you characters that you empathize with and characters that you dislike. And sometimes if they do it well, they can make you do both at the same time. That's actually the best shows to me, because that's life. They capture something specific about life, and they also do so while capturing very specific details of the world that they're talking about. And so when we make these videos, we kind of have to look at them as if we're making something to compete with The Wire, something to compete with the TV show, okay, which is crazy. But there's a reason why somebody like Defunctland wants you to understand that he's a documentarian, because that is an established art form through which you can understand the nuances and the values and the efficiencies of what he's doing. And you can understand that there are choices that he makes in order to tell stories, as well as in order to give good factual investigation and reporting and theorizing about a subject matter. And so this is oftentimes what we're left to do. And I think this also separates the video essay from the commentary video, because the commentary video is more so a take. It's more so focused on the person's opinion. The essay is more so, even if it is opinionated or based in opinion, does a lot more work to reveal details, does a lot more work to do scholarship. And both can have their place as long as a specificity is there. A specificity and a humility. We have to also remain humble when we do this work. We cannot think of ourselves as revolutionaries, and unless we're doing the kind of work that somebody like Dan Olson or Defunctland are doing, we can't think of ourselves as documentarians either. We have to understand that if we're doing 20-minute videos every week of hot takes about pop culture subjects, as I did for many weeks on this channel, then that means there's limitations there. There's only so much you can say and only so much you can do, and you cannot possibly come away from that video as a creator thinking, nailed it, that's the take, that's all we got on that subject. Moving on, my goal with those videos was to think of them somewhat like a John Oliver thing, where I investigate a subject a little bit, I do some research about it, try to get as in-depth with the research as I can in a short span of time, but understand that there's a lot of things that I'm not going to talk about. When I talked about plurality, for instance, in my video about dissociation, I had to talk about that from a very distant basics standpoint. I wasn't trying to act like I had a great take about plurality. I left any opinion or deeper thought on that alone because I wasn't qualified to give it. And this is the big thing. We have to recognize that we're running up against walls, and that that's a good thing for creativity. There's nothing wrong with doing this. But if we are constantly chasing a type of perfection with it, or something that is outside of commodified realms, then this is not the thing to do. As an audience member, remember that you have to have a level of discretion. There's a lot of people who watch videos like these, probably most people, with them on in the background as a kind of fun little background noise. Oh, while I knit, or while I cook, or while I exercise, I'll have this on in the background. I like to do 90% of my content consumption that way. It helps me catch up to all the things that I want to catch up on, and it also is fun. But there's a degree to which you lose the ability to actively listen because you're multitasking. And this is because you're possibly trying to have your attention remain yours while still producing it for somebody else. And it's no wonder that our existences are so stressful, right? I mean, we're trying so hard to have the attention for ourselves that we've been producing for other people, while still producing them for other people because we like how it feels when we give capitalists money. And that's the daunting thing of it all, right? We want to have this attention. We feel this complete strain on our attention from the attention economy. But we also like how it feels to watch YouTube videos and to watch TV shows and to listen to podcasts. We like how it feels when we produce attention and give it to somebody else for them to profit off of. And that's inevitable at this rate. The first step then to trying to figure out a way through that is to understand that that's happening, and then to figure out how it's applying to your situation. Get as specific as possible with your own life, just as we have to get as specific as possible with these videos. Remember that capitalism can turn anything, and has turned basically everything, into some realm for producing surplus value. And that's why it's important to have things in our lives that are not for anybody else's extraction. Things that are just for us. Things that are just for me. That are just for the people around me. Conversations that nobody else can listen to, and nobody else will have record of. Face-to-face conversations at that. Things like touching grass can be made fun of oftentimes, but you don't have to sell labor to anybody to touch grass. You just have to go find it and touch it. Sometimes I feel like my life gets drained way too much because I am producing way too much for other people. And rather than recognize that I am doing that, I sit and I wait for other people to reward me for the value that I'm giving to them. And under capitalism, That is essentially impossible because you are either the exploiter or the exploited. And this has a toll on everything, including our relationships. So instead of constantly trying to win and constantly trying to succeed in situations, we have to reject the concept of success in certain realms at all. This realm, this video, is a realm that I would like success in. I'm producing a lot, but after this is done, I'm going to go lay on my couch and do some completely unproductive stuff. Because if the exploitation and oppression of me, my mind and body, as well as everyone else's around me, are dictated by productivity, then we cannot combat that or deal with that without beginning to be unproductive. As long as we're trying to be productive, we're always going to start playing that spectrum game. We are always, as creators, running a race between Sunny V2 and FD Signifier, caught somewhere in the middle. And that's life. That's life under capitalism. But it's not all of what life has to be. One day, I want to retire from YouTube. And when I do so, I want to still upload videos because I don't want my retirement to be dictated by me no longer posting, but in fact, for me to no longer care about being productive with what I do on YouTube. One day I'm going to be able to just upload what I want to upload, monetize it maybe to some degree, but not really care about it from a career perspective at all. Until I get to that point, have a little bit of a grain of salt with my videos, because I view them with a grain of salt. I love them, but they're not true natural extensions of me. This is work, and I'm glad to do it, but I know what it is. That's the end of the video. That's the end of the video. Thanks for watching.